Hello, I'm Martin Ball. I'm involved in the Friends of Finsbury Park, though truly we're actually friends of Finsbury Park itself. And this wonderful nature. We're here at the southern edge of the park, at the Seven Sisters, the main gate. And just behind me you can see some wonderful facilities, but alas, they're vacant wonderful facilities. Haringey Council chooses to exclude people from the park using them, and actually only ever uses it at the Wireless Festival time as their event control headquarters, where they gather no doubt for important decision making and cups of tea. Imagine if this facility, this space here, this with wonderful trees, green space, enclosed area, convenient for Finsbury Park town centre and the station, was actually available to the community. Imagine if Wireless could bring that sort of benefit to the park, where people had more facilities and greater access to the park itself. This is a real key part of the park. It's where most people enter through the pedestrian gates, the rather grand brick tall gates here, and they're just on the Seven Sisters Road, which you might have seen from the recent Wireless event, because that's where people were actually kept at bay as the management of the event fell down a bit, where people, you might well remember them, just in the Daily Mail, actually highlighting how people were kettled in, were kept there, and in desperation because they feared of being crushed, that actually they started to jump over the fences and actually come in. A serious crowd control issue, one in which Wireless has a history of failing to actually provide proper maintenance of, and something that Haringey Council and all the other councils should be really concerned about is actually not just the safety within the venue, but the safety for people moving around their town, their encampment that they put in Finsbury Park for these floated festival occasions. We're just a short distance from the event control and the entrance to the park, and you can already see some of the serious structural damage that is caused by these events. This isn't normal in a public park. This is the industrialisation of events that is actually impacting and damaging the very fabric of the park. Look here, you can just see how this is broken up. It's not the hot weather causing this, this is Wireless. This is the impact of the machinery, this is the impact of having an event in this park. Of course it will be repaired, but this area here has been repaired constantly over the years. Every time there's an event, there is some battering to the infrastructure, to the roads, to the pavements, to the curbs. Why is this allowed to keep on happening? Just here you can begin to see some of the wonderful space of Finsbury Park, just here along the Seven Sisters Road, where the houses across the street are in Hackney. Housing that takes the brunt really of the noise of Wireless. It's there right in its face. But just look at this sort of area, you can see the effect of having the encampments here as had on the grass area. This is an area where people play sport, where people may want to relax, have a picnic, and yet you can see quite clearly this is not a nice area of the park now. Damaged by Wireless. We're just close to the damaged grass area. And what's clear from here, from the different shadings of the grass, is you can see the impact of Wireless, the hot weather, and yet something strange has happened in the middle here. It seems to be just as you would expect a park in the summer. So all of the spin from Haringey Council about it's a drought, it's exceptionally high weather, you can clearly see that actually it's the festival that has the most damaging impact upon the quality of the grass here and the park, and ultimately the enjoyment people can have from their own green space and the wonderful recreational facilities here. Cameras just come from the entrance where crowds were held back at one point because of security concerns, and just behind me here is where the scanning and the entry gates were, and you can clearly see that by the lanes of the stripes, where some of the grass is worn out, so it's down to the soil, and some is just also threadbare. But what happened here is that, naturally enough, when you weren't allowed in, because maybe you didn't have a ticket, you had to go back down there. There was no sort of runoff area, and therefore the congregation, the build-up and the crowd concerns that rippled out into the Seven Sisters Road probably started here and went all the way back down that grassed area. Just behind me is the Seven Sisters Road. What you might have noticed is that there's 3 parts of the fencing missing. Now that's natural enough. When they were looking to get people out of the event, they made space for that to happen. But now we're 10 days on from the event and the fencing hasn't been replaced. And the public are asking themselves, why is our park still being affected by this event? Where is the normality we'd expect from this park? Where is the concern to make good the things that are taken out of place, that are pushed to the side because of wireless? We're now on what's called the reservoir field, because there is actually a reservoir underneath here. This field has been promised in the past that it wouldn't be used for events. It's continuously been used for events, mainly as food events. And one of the things it does have as well is actually there's heavy vehicles that travel along here. And what you can see is some of the damage, not just the vehicles, but actually serious damage here. How does this damage happen? Look at this lengthy crack along the soil, and as it's quite deep, we've just measured it to be longer than a knife, a household eating knife level. So if you just walk along here, you can see, look at it, it's deep, it's wide. Something has happened here to cause this split. I think people here have tried to have, I don't know, some attempt to putting something in, or maybe they're just having a fire, I'm not too sure. But you just reach in there, that's my whole hand going in. That's the hand going in. That's wide it is, I can move it around. That's a serious. It's crumbling here, so it's going to get wider, it's cracking in there. It's actually cracked here, with further cracked parts here. So you can just see, look. What's caused this? I mean, there's some important water infrastructure under here. There's an important field for people playing. You can see in the background people playing as well. Yet more damage from wireless, more broken promises from Haringey, and more for us all to be concerned about the state of this Finsbury Park. One of the things we're told about wireless is that it brings great money into the park. It allows for new facilities, it allows for the upkeep and the maintenance of the park. But here on the reservoir field, you can clearly see that actually there's a damaged manhole here. And actually it's not been repaired. Why has it not been repaired? Why is it just left like this? You can see deep down what's the matter here. I've just removed this safety measures just so you can actually get a sense of the depth here. What I understand, and this is quite obvious was possibly the case in a dark night, is that somebody walked across, an 11-year-old girl walked across and actually managed to half fall down. Thankfully she didn't fall fully down, she was able to actually get out, but still another example of how the park is neglected and is damaged during the wireless period and is not repaired. I'm sure the council say nothing to do with us, but it is everything to do with them. This is the part that they have responsibility for managing, the part they have responsibility for maintaining, and still there are serious danger points around this park, from wireless, from general usage. I'm just going to put this back down now, of course, because I don't want anybody else to be in danger. But that is not something that's left in a safe condition. Behind me is the council's green waste yard. It looks that way, so I think you'd have worked that one out. And it's a prime example of actually how the park's normal running and maintenance is pushed aside for the convenience of its commercial partner Wireless. There was a number of diesel generators stored in here during the actual event, but that also meant the space was given over to the company hiring the park and using the park, and actually a lot of normal facilities in terms of recycling and green waste activity the council undertakes was suspended so that the Wireless could make use of the facilities. I would say that it was actually better that we carried on with the green agenda, looking after the park, recycling the green waste from this park, rather than actually turning it into yet another compound for Wireless. Now this is Finsbury Park. This is what a park looks like. Look at the grass, look at the trees, feel how wonderful this area is. Feel like this is your back garden, this is your outdoor recreational space. And then compare it what we've seen, the trash bits of Finsbury Park, where the operator and the council have built a mini village to house tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of paying attendees. Is that compatible with actually having this wonderful green outdoor space for people to breathe, to relax, to enjoy themselves? Is that actually what a park should be? I would suggest that is what the people around here want, not Wireless Town, not the abuse of their park and their green space. They want a space for them to enjoy and for nature to flourish. We're in the Mackenzie Gardens now. What a beautiful setting, what a really lovely oasis of colour and plants and a lovely space. And again, another example of what the park can do for people with the facilities, the playground facilities there in the distance through the gate. A fine example of what Wireless and the public can bring to a park, but actually when you consider what really happens when Wireless Town comes to Finsbury Park, it actually displaces people from here. It changes the entire atmosphere of this area. It changes people's willingness to come down here. So you have to ask yourself, what is the park about? Is it about providing amenity and facilities and outdoor space for people, or is it really about commercialisation and income generation from the council? Is it really beneficial to the park to have these events? Are we just somehow generating the money to repair the damage caused by these events? Wouldn't there be a better way to fund this park? Wouldn't there be a way to fund this park without having to have it trashed by a festival every year and other events? Wouldn't it be better to invest in something that the people want and has enormous educational and leisure improvement for people's lives? One of the features of the damage to the park is just how normalised it's become. In this beautiful setting here is another example of damage done during the event, repairs that don't take place soon after, and it's the public again who suffer. The quality of their park suffers, the quality of their access to their park suffers, and the whole experience of how they feel about their park. Haringey says, we're doing brilliant for this park, we're bringing money in and investing, and yet people are walking past this damage, wanton damage from an event that Haringey promotes, tells us to celebrate. Well, I would say to Haringey Council, There's nothing world class about this damage. There's nothing to be celebrating about here, and this certainly isn't iconic in my view. No need to introduce the tennis courts here. Quite clearly you can see people having a great time of it here this evening. But actually during Wimbledon, the great celebratory tennis event of the British social calendar as well as world-class tennis, these facilities were actually closed down for people. Why? What was possibly needed? Portaloos, of course, for the many tens of thousands of people that came here. Facilities, people were denied the ability to play tennis in good conditions here in their local park, so people could actually use the toilet. Both are valuable needs, both are vital needs, but actually you have to say to yourself, if the public is funding this facility, if the public is making it available for people to exercise, then why aren't these facilities open? Why again is wireless interrupting the normal life of the residents down here, changing the entire dynamics of the park? Yes, people do need to go to the toilet, but actually, isn't it better these courts are used for playing tennis, for people to learn skills, to have social bonding with their friends, and actually to have exercise? That is what this park should be about, not giving it over to Wireless Town.